In this video, I'm going to walk you through my process for creating a type of collage that I call glue and go, because the collages are created very fast with little planning and lots of joy. Hello, my name is Catherine Rains. I'm a mixed media collage artist, and welcome to Tune In Tuesday, where I share weekly art demos to expand your mixed media toolbox. If you see value in this video, I would deeply appreciate a thumbs up, and if you would subscribe to my channel below. Links for the supplies to make this type of collage are down below, and you might also want to check out my free 5-day online workshop, Collage Kickstart, where I teach you how to use all the collage papers taught during Tune In Tuesday to make fabulous collages the very first try. So let's get into creating an abstract collage using my glue and go technique. The collage that I'm going to be showing you how to make is something that originated during my 100-day project 2024. This project was based on the idea that I had not been doing any art. I had been teaching art, but not actually walking the walk and making the art that I love so much to do. So I came up with a project where I was going to make art, and specifically a collage, just 15 minutes a day. This eventually turned into a lesson for the Collage Maker Summit with Drew Steinbrecher. And it all started with this little book that I'm showing you. So my intention was to make 100 little collages in 15 minutes, one each day. What actually happened was the first 5 or 6 did only take 15 minutes. And the more I got into the project and the more I started filming myself doing these collages, the more I realized this wasn't going to work. I was actually going to have to take more time because I got really into making the collages. So I made them in these cute little books, and the link for this actual book is in the description for this video. And I have these little bull clips to keep the book open because the book fanned out quite a bit as I made more collages. So these little clips kept it basically flat. And to start each one of these collages, I would flip through the collages that I'd already made, and I would look through and see what color family did I want to make them in. I had 3 different piles of scraps, and the entire collage series was based on scraps only: neutrals, cools, and warms. And for this particular collage that I'm about to show you, I decided I was only going to use neutrals and cools. And I didn't do anything precious to choose these papers. I literally just picked papers right out of the box, usually somewhere in the middle of the box. And I, for the most part, limited myself only to these very small number of papers that I initially would pull out of the box each day. This collage that you see me making was originally filmed in a vertical format so that I could create a reel out of it for Instagram. So I've just flipped it into horizontal, and I will show you the true orientation at the very end when I'm actually done with the collage. But each one of these collages started the exact same way. I usually chose some kind of transparent writing that you see on the very bottom layer there. And then I would go through my other piles, which is neutrals and cools in this case, and just choose one paper that literally was just saying, use me. It was kind of like a focal point color. It wasn't necessarily a focal point itself. I just loved the paper. And then once I glued that paper down, and I was always gluing as I went, so I was doing no planning whatsoever. I have a light blue paper down, then I go, okay, I need a contrast to that. So I went back to my cool papers and I saw a little bit darker paper that would create a contrast. And I was also continually looking for different size papers. So the first one was, a long fat rectangular. The next one was going to be a thin rectangular in a different value of blue. So I was constantly looking for contrast and gluing as I went. So throughout the process, I was constantly saying, okay, what would be a nice contrast to the papers I already have down here? So I just keep going through my pile, shuffling through all of my neutrals and my cool papers, and basically auditioning them against what I've got down here. This is my foundation, just 3 little pieces. And I will go through a number of pieces here before I find what I think is going to be a nice contrast to the original paper. And then I will commit, constantly committing as I go. And I don't know what this collage is going to look like at any point during the collage making, other than I know I've got these 3 papers. And that is really the joy of this kind of collage making, which I call glue and go, because it kind of takes your mind out of it. I am stopping my mind from analyzing in terms of, is this good? Is this not good? I mean, I am looking for contrasts in size of papers and the values of the papers, but I don't have to worry too much about the papers going together, because all of the scraps that I have in my little pile were all made with just 2-color paints and black and white. So I was using Phthalo Blue Green Shade and Hansa Yellow Light plus black and white to make all of the papers in my cool box. And then I have lots of neutrals. And for the most part, my neutrals are going to go with my blues and my other cool colors. So one of the things I love about this type of collage making is that not only does it take my mind out of the process, because I'm focused on going fast. I do set a stopwatch for 20 minutes. My intention is to do it in 20 minutes. Rarely did they actually take just that short amount of time. They probably were more like 30 minutes. But it did keep me focused on not thinking too much, just focusing on, does the piece of paper I have in my hand actually create a contrast, both in size, in the color, and the value? That's all I'm looking for. So doing this project actually helped me evolve my expression of collage, which is actually something I didn't expect when I started making these collages for this project. But the more I did them, the more I realized I really love placing and gluing almost simultaneously. Like, I'm not putting a lot of effort into this. Before this project, I would be much more planned out. And if you've watched some of my other videos where I take 5 papers from 5 paper making techniques, I do lay it all out first and then glue it all down all at one time, where I'm not doing that here. I am not taking the time to do that. I am just trusting that as long as I follow very basic design rules, which is contrast against each other in all ways, size of the paper, the value of the paper, the colors, as long as I'm focused on contrast, I'm trusting that this collage is going to come together. And for the most part, they did. By the way, I didn't end up making 100 collages. My project ended up being only 70 collages, but I was happy with that. At some point, I had to go back to actually developing classes and focusing more on YouTube videos. So I just didn't have the time. However, I am all set up to continue this project and will probably expand it to much bigger collages. The other byproduct of doing this project was that I started doing this type of collage with live in-person teaching. So I decided I wanted to add this to teaching live, and it will probably go into online classes as well at some point. I did launch 3 classes while I was actually creating these 70 collages. I had 2 workshops that were scheduled for Italy, my very first international workshops, and they both sold out. And I also had one in Asheville, North Carolina, that also sold out. However, if you're interested in learning in person with me as opposed to online, you can go to the link in the description below. And I do have a link to my wait list for live workshops, because I have found out that they actually sell out pretty quick. So as long as you're on the wait list, you would get first dibs at them when I schedule another one. But for the time being, I am focused on online workshops. And I've got 2 that are open all the time now. One is Collage Kickstart, which is my free 5-day online class. And by the way, some of the papers you see me using right here, some of them are actually from that original Collage Kickstart. In fact, that one that has the circle on it is from that. There are 7 collage papers you make during Collage Kickstart. The second workshop actually expands on what you learn from the free workshop. So there's 8 more papers. You learn how to cut, glue, tear, rip, a lot more different skill building in there. And there's a small fee for that one. It's only $27, but it does give you a nice foundation. It builds off the free class. And those 2 classes are meant to prepare you for my 12-week masterclass, which is Collage Joy, which only happens once a year. And that's in January 2025. So if you take the two smaller classes, you'll already have a lot of skills. You'll already have a lot of the collage papers made before you get to Collage Joy. So I've just added some molding paste dots that I've added a little paint to create that lovely blue. This is a very typical kind of finishing embellishment I do with my collages, although this collage is far from finished, but it does add kind of like a way to pull the collage together. So the way I create an illusion that these tissue paste molding dots are kind of floating on top of this collage is I just gently scrape away the tissue and some of the extra dots too, because I like the dots looking a little random and not so precision, which is how they were originally made, meaning they are all lined up all nicely. So I'm just going to take a few minutes to just scrape away extra tissue and a few extra dots just to make it look like they just magically appeared right on the collage. At this point in the collage, I'm really asking myself, what would finish it off? Like, what do I need to kind of add an extra piece of contrast? And I find this circle. Circles are a very typical thing that I use in my work. These are all hand cut, and I just love the way this kind of pulls it together. It adds another piece of contrast right there. And now that that piece is glued, I keep looking for other little finishing piece touches that would just add a kind of added embellishment. And this piece of tissue paper that has some scribbles on it. This is just acrylic paint on tissue paper. I just love the look of that. So I'm going to try out 3 or 4 of these that I made and see which one actually fits the best right there. And for me, that just adds kind of a pop of contrast in a big block of what is pretty white. After placing several down, I think I have found a winner, and I'm going to glue this one down. And just like I did with the molding paste dots, I will scrape away whatever excess tissue I have. Now I'm pasting this against a pretty light background, so for the most part, the tissue you see right there is not going to end up in the final collage because it's going to melt into the light background underneath it. Anything where I'm pasting the tissue against a darker surface, that tissue will show, so I'll scrape it away. And I continually ask myself, what other contrast do I need to finish this off? And I have a whole pile of little circle dots from past projects. I thought the little blue dot just was a nice finishing touch to pull your eye into that corner of the collage. And I find one last piece I want to put down, which is just kind of to frame the piece. For some reason, that one side just looked like it was kind of empty. And here is the finished piece in its correct orientation. Again, this took me about 30 minutes. However, it wasn't actually 30 consecutive minutes. What happens when I make a lot of these is I'll put the main pieces down and I go and do my art business for a couple hours, but I have this little book opened near my table and I keep looking at it thinking, what else can I do with it? So I just kept coming back and adding a little piece here and there. So altogether, about 30 minutes, but not necessarily all at one time. And that's it for this demo. Thank you for joining me for another Tune In Tuesday. And I will be back here next week, next Tuesday, where I will be showing you another collage paper making technique. To learn many more collage making techniques, check out the links that are about to appear right here. And be sure to join my free 5-day online class, Collage Kickstart, as well as Collage Kickstart 2.0, which builds on the original Collage Kickstart. The links to sign up for both are down below. And if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, I would be deeply grateful if you would. And I'll see you here next week for Tune In Tuesday.